Hello, hello. Welcome back to Well Life Wednesday, where we have real conversation about mental health, recovery, healing, relationships, and what it means to live well one day at a time. I'm your host, Iris, your licensed clinical addiction specialist associate, and today we're talking about a subject that can be difficult, uncomfortable, and sometimes painful to discuss. And the topic is shame, relapse, and restarting. But before we get started in the conversation, make sure you're connected with us. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead subscribe to our channel at youtube.com at H3P 8 at H3CPLLC. Hit the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone who may need this conversation. And if you're listening to one of our podcast platforms, share this with someone in your circle. You never know who may be struggling in silence. Everyone, today's message is very simple. A setback does not have to become the end of your story. Maybe you had 30 days clean. Maybe you had 6 months clean. Maybe you had 3 years. Maybe you promised your children, yourself, your spouse, your family, sponsor, your therapist, and even God that you would never go back. And somehow you did. Now you're sitting in the aftermath, wondering, sorry, what happened? How did I get back here? What is everybody going to think? Did I ruin everything? Can I really start over again? And today we're going to talk about all of that. First, let's understand what shame is. Shame can become one of the biggest barriers to getting back in recovery. There is an important difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says, I did something that I regret. Shame says, there is something wrong with me. Those are two different messages there. Again, guilt says, I did something I regret. Shame said, there is something wrong with me. You can acknowledge that you made a harmful decision without deciding that you are a hopeless person. Just because you made a bad choice, a bad decision, that doesn't mean that you're hopeless. There's hope for everyone. You can admit, I relapse without turning that statement into that you're a failure. You can acknowledge that you have hurt people without deciding nobody will ever trust me again. You can even recognize I stopped doing some of the things that were helping my recovery without believing I'll never be able to recover. We have to change those negative thoughts. We put so much on ourselves and we go to the extreme. Just because, like you said, you stop doing some of the things that were helping you, that does not mean you'll never recover again. You taken a situation and spoke to the future and just said, there's no hope for me at all. When there is hope. Shame has a very has a way of making people hide. You stop going to your meetings, you stop seeing your therapist, you avoid your sponsor, you don't tell your recovery supports what's happening, what's going on with you. You don't want to go around your family. And sometimes you isolate because you think everybody is disappointed in me. But isolation is often exactly where addiction wants you. And that is so true. Addiction feel like they have won when they got you to the point that you want to isolate, don't want to be around those support systems that carried you, supported you before. You start avoiding people, stop going to your meetings. That's exactly where addiction wants you to stay. But you can turn that around. You do not have to let that one decision negate everything that you have worked on before, because it's relapse. The word is relapse. So that lets me know that you have done this before. You have been through recovery before, whether it was 6 days, 10, a week, 2 months. You was able to do it. You was able to restrain um, from that, whatever you're addicted to. So when, like I said, isolation often exactly wants where addiction wants you. But when you are disconnected from those people, there's nobody challenging your thoughts or that's running through your head. Nobody's there to help you, push you. Nobody's there saying call somebody. Nobody's there saying to come to the meeting or let's go get some help. Nobody's saying this what happened, but it doesn't have to continue. So if you listen to me right now and shame has caused you to pull away from the people that support you in your recovery, I want you to hear this. Come out of hiding. You do not have to hide. We all have made mistakes. We all have felt the shame and the guilt of something. But that does not determine who you are and what your future can hold. We have to pull ourselves up out of that and continue to move forward. You don't have to have everything figured out before you're asking for help. And that's one of the things people feel like they have to be well put together before you can ask for help. You don't have to be. This is the time when you're stressing, feeling uncertain, um, you begin feeling some type of depression or any temptation. These are the times that you should reach out to your strong support systems, whether it's going to return into your meetings, speaking with your pastor, speaking with your family, whoever that trustworthy person is. Reconnect with them to help you get past this state. And while we're talking about this, let's check in again with our Well Life Wednesday family. If this conversation is connecting with you already, please like this episode. Let us know in the comments. What is one thing that helps someone restart after a setback? Again, what is one thing that helps someone restart after a setback? You don't have to share anything personal. Maybe your answer can be as simple as support, prayer, treatment, accountability, honesty, a meeting, calling a friend, starting over one day at a time. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at H3C PLLC. Share this conversation with someone that needs to hear it today. All right. So let's discuss what relapse really means. I know you have heard this word already um, in this podcast. One of the biggest mistakes people have made about relapse is I've I've already messed up, so it doesn't matter what I do now. And they think just because they messed up, there's no hope. We need to combat that. That thinking can turn one episode of substance use into several days, weeks, months of continual use because they feel like just because they messed up, it doesn't matter what they do at this point now. Nobody's going to believe in me anymore. Um, my family, I've lost everything. They go through all these emotions and the guilt trip and the shame because they felt like they have let themselves down and everyone that they love down. You may think I've already broke my sobriety, so what's the point? The point is you can stop again. That, like I said before, if you've done it before, you can do it again. A relapse does not erase everything you have learned while you have been in recovery. If you were sober for 9 months and experienced a relapse, those 9 months were not meaningless. You learned something during those 9 months. Maybe you learned how to identify your triggers, which are important. Maybe you have repaired a relationship that was broken for years. Maybe you started therapy, which is awesome. Maybe you became more emotionally aware. You have become in tune with your emotions and your body when things are offset. That's great. Maybe you learn how to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of immediately trying to escape them. And that's a hard thing people have a hard time doing. They don't want to sit with those uncomfortable feelings. A lot of times they don't want to remember it. They don't want to ever think about them being in that place before. Like I said, they want to escape it. Or maybe you have learned which people support your recovery and which environment makes recovery harder. And this is another one. We need to learn who was for us and who was against us, and where we need to be and where we need not to be. That kind of reminds me of Sunday's message when Bishop was talking about, my pastor was talking about, you got to be mindful who you let inside your house, your physical house and your spiritual house. You can't let everything creep in. Before you know it, you start acting like the people that you done let in your house or they done took over. You doing things you ain't never done before. You have to be mindful who you let in your space. You still have that knowledge. Now we have to ask, I'm sorry, a different question instead of only asking, why did I relapse? We have to ask now, what was happening before I relapse? Because relapse often has warning signs before is substance is ever used. Again, relapse have warning signs before the substance is ever used. Things happen before we start taking on uh, the behavior or using that substance or what, like I said, whatever your addiction may be. There's always warning signs. This is my example for today. When the season changed and I start getting a little sniffles or scratchy throat, I don't wait for it to come into a full blown cold or the flu. When I get a little sniffle or a scratchy throat, I'm going to go get some airborne Alka-Seltzer Plus or something because I want to hit this thing head on. I don't want it to linger. I don't want to be down for 2 days, a week. I want to hit it head on. I don't want to give it time to fester. That's the same thing. Know the warning signs. If your eyes start watering and your nose running, we need to start treating something. Maybe you stop sleeping well. Maybe stress has increased. Maybe depression has returned. Maybe anxiety became overwhelming. Maybe you stopped attending your recovery meetings. Maybe you started reconnecting with people and using substance with them. Maybe you stopped taking your medication as prescribed. Maybe you have told yourself, I can handle being around it now. Maybe you have started romanticizing about substance use. It really wasn't that bad. I can just have one. I deserve this. I've been doing good. Nobody would know. When we start thinking that you can handle being around it now, sometimes we have to be honest with ourselves. There go that word again, honesty. We ain't strong enough to go be around those same people. Because when we start trying, just because we've been uh, doing well for 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 5 months now, we think we got it all figured out. But it takes, you have to work on this thing daily. This is a daily thing. If you're not strong enough to be around them people, next thing you know, temptation comes. Then we start romanticizing about the substance use. Then we want thinking about how we was when we was on it, what all we did, what all we done got ourselves into. And we think that some of those things were fun. We thought we was living our best life when really we was damaging ourselves, our bodies, and was not making the best choices. And then that's when we pretty much lost some of our family members. And because of we thinking that we can do it, we start thinking about, if I just take a little sip, if I just do a little bit of this, ain't nobody got to know. Ain't nothing gonna happen. Nobody may not have to know, but you know. All those thoughts matter. That what I just stated a few minutes ago. Recovery requires us to pay attention not only to the behavior, but also what is happening emotionally, mentally, socially, environmentally before the behavior occurs. Again, like we said, warning sign comes before the behavior occurs. Again, we just have to be mindful. And sometimes we're not ready to go back into those environments. And I know sometimes we have their friends back there and we want to pull them up with us and be like, we got this together. But everybody has to run the race at their own pace. Only person you have to worry about now is getting better is yourself. I can still pray for my homegirl and my homeboy or my family, whoever is still out there. No matter what their situation may be, or like I said, their addiction may be, everybody has something different. But you have to worry about you getting well first before we can kind of try to support and build other people up when we're still not strong enough to get to that point, because temptation is real. You got to stay around those positive supports. So let's talk about the cycle of relapse. Sometimes relapse follows a pattern. Stress increase, you become emotionally overwhelmed, you stop talking, you isolate, you stop using your coping skills, you begin thinking about using, you convince yourself you can control it, you use again, then the shame shows up. These are the cycles that we I see all. Like I said, the shame shows up. Then shame says, don't tell anybody. So you use again. And now the cycle continues. That's why honesty is so important in recovery. I know we have some strong, independent people in the world. Even strong, independent people need supports and help. I know you feel like you got it. You can manage on your own. I've been doing this on my own for years. Da da da. I get that. But it's important that you have somebody trustworthy to lean on when you're not having the best day. Because when you're doing it all by yourself, who are you going? Who's your support? Because we go back into that cocoon of isolation, and I'm not going to tell anybody where I am and what I'm feeling because I got it all figured out. When actually you don't. Again, honesty is important in recovery. The earlier you can interpret the cycle, the more you can interpret the cycle early on, the better. That's what I was trying to say. You don't have to wait until everything falls apart. You don't have to wait until you lose your house. You don't have to wait until you lose your job. You don't have to wait till relationships are destroyed. You don't have to wait until you have legal problems. You don't have to wait until you have a medical emergency. You can ask for help today. And I wish, I'm talking to myself too. I wish that we could get to the point where we don't have to wait until the bottom falls out, until the ball drops. We wait until everything is. When we first see a crack, we need to address it then. If we're not, we continue to let that crack um, go without any treatment. Before you know, the whole foundation, the whole piece, whether it be a vase or a glass, it's eventually it's going to just explode. We have to do the work when we first notice there is a problem. Again, we don't have to wait till everything fall apart and until we lose everything. And that's when people normally want to ask for help when everything is gone, when they have lost everything. But again, you can start asking for help right now. Ask for it today. And sometimes the most powerful sentence that you can say is, I'm struggling and I need help. That's nothing long and drawn out. It's very direct and you just telling the truth. I am struggling and I need help. That takes strength and courage to acknowledge that that I'm struggling and I need help. Recovery is not about pretending that you or have never been tempted. Recovery is learning what to do when temptation comes. Again, that goes back to honesty. We need to stop faking it out here. Like I said, we all human. We all have made mistakes. We all maybe everybody has some type of issue, whether we want to admit it or not. So we need to quit pretending and just address what we need to address. Let's just be real. The way the world is now, we don't even have time to be playing around and thinking that we got years to figure this thing out. No, we don't. People living here young, people living here old. Before it used to be like, oh, we losing a whole bunch of old people. No, we losing everybody now. It don't even matter what age you are. Let's get it right now while we have the chance. Again, if you're joining us and listening to the Well Like Wednesday podcast, we're discussing the topic shame, relapse, and restarting. And I'm your host, Iris, your licensed clinical addiction specialist. If this conversation has been helpful to you, please take a second to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com at H3CPLLC, H3CPLLC. Please like this episode, comment, and share. Sharing is especially important because addiction and shame thrive in silence. I can't state that enough. Addiction and shame thrives in silence. Sometimes hearing one conversation at the right moment can encourage someone to ask for help. Now let's talk about the part that can feel the hardest, and that's restarting. And you may ask, how do I restart? Yeah, you may have relapsed, and you probably ask yourself, What do I do next? Step one, I have mentioned it already. We have to stop hiding. Tell someone who supports your recovery, please. That might be your counselor, your sponsor, your peer support specialist, your trusted family member, a recovery coach, a treatment provider, someone from your faith community, whether it be your pastor, your deacon, one of the preachers, anybody. You don't need to notify or get 20 to 30 people involved. You need safe people who will help you make the next healthy decision, whoever that trustworthy person is. Okay. Step two, get honest about what happened. Again, honesty is the key. Ask yourself, what was going on before I used? Were you angry? Were you lonely? Were you depressed? Were you overwhelmed? Were you even celebrating something? Did grief set in? Was it being around certain people? Was it being in certain environments? Did you stop doing something that had been helping you before? Did you begin believing you no longer needed support? There is information in relapse. Don't waste the information by spending all your energy beating yourself up. You have to learn from it. So you have to take the time to realize what took place before. That's all that I'm stating here. It can be something good or something bad. Like I said, it could have been something else. You celebrating something, and anything could have triggered grief, depression, feeling lonely, stress, financial issues, the environment you in, or just the notion of you thinking that you no longer needed help because you felt like you was doing so well. Whatever it is, we need to take the time to learn from it. Write down some of your triggers and some of your warning signs. That could be helpful as well. Step three, remove immediate access. Whatever that addiction is, whether it's substance, get it out of your environment. Recovery becomes much harder. Distance yourself from the people, places, and situations connected to the active use. You may have to block a number. You may have to leave an environment. You may have to stop going somewhere. You may have to change the routine. Those decisions may feel uncomfortable, but protecting your recovery sometimes requires uncomfortable boundaries. And that's all what you're doing. You're setting boundaries. Like I said, whether it's blocking a number, leaving the environment you in, stop going to those places where you know you ain't got no business going, changing your routine. It's as simple as this. Like I said, we all have done something, made choices that we're not proud of. So I know if I said uh, I'm in recovery, I have removed myself from this situation, there's no need of me, especially if I'm not strong enough now. There's no need for me reconnecting with people, trying to go get breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. Meet me over here, girl. Meet me down here. I'm gonna be over here. If I know I'm not strong enough and temptation can become an issue, I'm not going there. So you have to make up in your mind, set those boundaries, be determined and be consistent that I'm not going to change or deter from what I have been doing that has been working just for a simple pleasure, whether it be drugs, hanging around people, doing things that you know you ain't got to be doing. Because in the long run, you know that's going to set you back some. No, you have to make up in your mind, this is what I want. This is more important to me than saying I'm hanging out with some people that's not, I'm not there anymore. And it's okay to set those uncomfortable boundaries. Step 4, reconnect to treatment and support. If you stop your therapy, call them people and get on the books. If you stop attending meetings, go back. If you have been avoiding your doctor, schedule the appointment. If you need a higher level of substance use treatment, talk to your qualified professionals about your options. Do not allow embarrassment to keep you away from the very support that can help you. I'm not going to allow embarrassment. I'm not going to allow what people think. I'm not going to allow what people say to keep me from being well. Y'all can have all that. People going to talk regardless. That's going to be a part of life until you leave here. But I'm focused on my wellness, being whole. This may be life or death for me. So you don't think I'm going to let something you say, some embarrassment, keep me from being whole and well? No, ma'am. No, sir. It's a bigger picture. It's about what you think. It's about me, honey. Let's talk about you don't have to restart from zero. And a lot of people feel that way in treatment that you have to restart from zero. This is what I want people to understand. You may be starting again, but you're not necessarily starting from zero. Okay? You're starting with experience. That's what you're restarting with, experience. You're restarting knowing more about your triggers because that's what we're going to be working on. We're going to identify what is triggering us. You're restarting knowing what recovery feels like. You're going to be restarting knowing which coping skill is working. You're restarting knowing which decision slowly took you away from recovery. So we're taking notes of all these things. You're restarting with evidence that you have done this before. Maybe you don't feel proud of yourself right now, and that's okay. Because anytime, that's normal. Anytime we make a mistake or make a bad decision, choices, or however you want to put it, we don't feel good about it. We do tend to beat ourselves up a little bit. We normally say, now, girl, what you do that for? I know I ain't had no business doing that. And it does put us somewhere. But we got to snap out of it. We can't sit in it for too long. Yeah, we did it, but let's move on now. Don't wait until you feel proud. You don't have to wait for that until you feel proud. Take the necessary steps right away. Yeah, I made a mistake, but now what should I be doing next? Sometimes feelings follow actions. You may not feel motivated to go back to the treatment, but go anyway. You may not even feel comfortable walking back into the recovery meeting. Even I don't care if your head down. I don't care if your head down and tears rolling. I'm going back to the meeting. If this what helped me before, I'm going back. Like I said, walk in anyway. You may not want to make the phone call, but make it anyway. You may not feel ready to apologize. And this word a lot of people get stuck to. And that's okay. Start by getting stable and becoming accountable. You don't need to solve your entire life today. You don't. Ask yourself, what does recovery require from me today? Maybe today. it's not using, maybe it's drinking water, eating something, getting some sleep, taking my medication, calling in to my counselor, removing substance from your environment, getting all that stuff out your house that don't need to be in there, going to a meeting, telling the truth, which is important, making one good decision, and tomorrow you make another. That's just for today. All right. Let's talk about self forgiveness and accountability. Now, let me say something important. Uh, Self forgiveness does not mean avoiding accountability. If you relapse and you have hurt people, we know that means there's some relationships that's going to be needing some healing. There may be consequences that you may have to face because of the choices you have made. People may need time before they trust you again. And that's where I find in um, in my career. People may need time before they can trust you again. And that's hard for people dealing with substance abuse. They feel like because they keep saying it from their mouth. The family often say, we heard that before. We don't want to hear any more lip service. Just do what you need to do. And I have heard that point blank that the family was like, I don't want to hear it no more. We done heard this too many times. We've been in this rodeo before. I just need for him to do what he need to do. And you have to be okay when you have been the person that have hurt the individuals, burnt all these bridges that they say they need space and time. They not ready to trust that for right now. And that is okay. You can't demand someone's trust just because you're ready to change. Trust is rebuilt through consistency. That's how trust is rebuilt through consistency. Your responsibility is to focus on what you can control, and that is your choices, your treatment, your honesty, your boundaries, your recovery, your consistency, instead of saying everybody needs to believe me. You can't go to the people again that you have hurt and burnt bridges with and just saying, I just need y'all to believe me. I need y'all to believe me. It's going to be different this time. They're not, they, they don't want to hear that anymore. This is how you need to approach it. Try saying, I'm going to let my behavior demonstrate the changes I'm making. That by itself is very powerful. I'm going to let my behavior demonstrate the changes I'm making. You don't have to convince everybody with words. That's what they're trying to tell you. We've heard these words. They feel like your words has meant nothing right now because they feel like they have been lies and they have heard it before. I'm only saying what heard the family members say about the individual enemy in a treatment session or in a counseling session. They don't want to hear that again. Just do the work. And you can do that by living differently. One day can become 2 days, 2 days become a week becomes a month becomes months. Recovery is built in ordinary decisions. You have to make the choice that this is what you really want to do. You have to be honest with yourself, and it has to be consistency. Again, I want to make this statement again, reiterate it. You're going to let your behavior demonstrate the changes that you're making. Well, Life Wednesday family, if you're still with me, type restart in the comments. Not because you necessarily experience relapse, but because everybody has an area of life where they had to begin again. Again, we are human and we all have done something where we had to restart again. And while you're there, like the episode, subscribe to the YouTube channel at H3CP LLC. Share this with someone that you care about. We want this conversation reaching people who may need encouragement, education, and support. And before I close, I want this message to go to someone who may be dealing with relapse. I want to speak directly to that person who recently have relapsed. You may feel embarrassed. You may be scared to tell someone. You may be disappointed in yourself. You may be thinking about all the promises you have made. You may feel as though you have let everyone down, but shame cannot be your recovery plan. Do not let shame dictate to you where you are, where you're going. Be accountable, yes, but also be honest. Learn from what happened, repair what you can, but then I want you to get back up. You don't have to continue using simply because you used on yesterday. Yesterday happened. That was yesterday. But what are you going to do today? Make the call, go to treatment, attend that meeting, contact your sponsor, reach out to your support system, change your environment, get medical evaluate if it need be honest about what happened, and take the next step. You are not required to have the next 6 months figured out. Just make the next recovery focused decision. Then make another one and another one, and that's how you restart. As we close today's episode, remember, relapse can be a part of someone's recovery experience, but it does not have to become the end of their recovery. Don't allow shame to convince you that you are stuck. Learn, reconnect, recommit, and restart. Thank you for spending this Well Life Wednesday with me. Again, I'm Iris, your licensed clinical addiction specialist associate. And I hope today's conversation encouraged you to give someone, I'm sorry, encourage you or gave you something that you can take away and bless someone else with by sharing this episode as well. Before we leave, remember to subscribe, like, comment, share. You can find us again on youtube.com at H3CPLSC. And if you're listening to on one of our podcast platforms, follow the show and share this episode today. Remember, wellness is not never experience of a setback. Sometimes wellness looks like having the courage to say, I fell down, I learned something, and I'm starting again. Until next time, take care of yourself, protect your recovery, support one another, and keep choosing wellness. I'll see you next Wednesday on Well Life Wednesday. Thanks, everyone.